Hello everybody and welcome back to another CB Show Tunes tutorial. Now today what we're going to be getting into is creating our character to be able to go to different waypoints and all. So this is going to be a very simple tutorial. Basically, as you can see, this is the demo scene right here. We have our character moving from each different waypoint and then traveling back to the original waypoint and just continuing on. So let's go ahead and get on into how we did this. Alright, so starting off with the basics, we're going to select our enemy. Now for our enemy, well actually before we even start off with our enemy, we're going to set up our navigation scene. So go over to your scene and create a plane. On this plane, you're going to create a navigation mesh. So to do this, if you don't have the navigation windows, go over to Windows and select Navigation. Once you got that done, make sure that you have the object that you want selected. Go over to your inspector and make sure that is static. Now this is only for navigation purposes, so if it's like an obstacle, you're going to include it inside a static mesh. But if it's not, then don't worry about it. So once you have your ground selected, go over to Bake and then select Bake. And this allows us to activate our navigation mesh. Okay, now since we got the navigation mesh out of the way, we're going to select our enemy. So on the enemy, you're going to notice that we have a couple new items on it. So we have a nav mesh agent. This allows us to be able to interact with the navigation mesh. And we also set the speed down to 2. It should start off with about 3.5, I believe, but 2 should be fast enough. Okay, so now you also need to add a rigid body. And of course, you're going to freeze rotations on the constraints with X, Y, and Z. And of course, we're going to add in a waypoint script. Now, the waypoint script is going to be a script that controls our character moving from point to point. So to create the script, go over to your project panel, right click, go over to create, and select C#. Once you got that selected, you can just name it waypoint or whatever you want to call it. Then open up Visual Studios or MonoDevelop or whatever scripting API you're using. Okay, so at the top of your script, you're going to put using UnityEngine.ai. This allows us to be able to access the navigation functions for Unity. Inside the script, we're going to say navMeshAgent, and we're going to call it InIm. We're also going to create a public transform, which is going to be an array. We're going to call it Waypoints. Then we're going to create a public int called curloc, and we're going to create a public float stop distance. All right, underneath the void start, we're going to say inim is equal to get component navmesh agent, and inim.stoppingDistance is equal to stop distance. Okay, so since we finally got all our references set up, we're going to go over to the void update function. I'll try to explain this in depth as much as possible because I know this is actually all the confusing parts. Okay, so you're going to create a float called distance. Make sure that it's lowercase so it doesn't interfere with the vector3 version of distance. And we're going to say this is equal to vector3.distance. And this distance is going to be judged between our current position, which is the transform.position, comma, and then waypoints curloc.position. So whichever waypoint we're at or looking at, that's the distance we're going to be judging, okay? Then we're going to put transform.lookAt waypoint curloc. So basically we're going to make our character look at the current waypoint we're going for. Now we're going to say if distance is less than or equal to stop distance, then curloc plus equals 1. So once we reach the location, then we're going to say our current loc is equal to, say for instance, whatever we're at. So if we're at 0, then it adds 1 to 0. So now we're at 1. And of course, if we're at 1, then it goes to 2. If we're at 2, it goes to 3, and so on. Then we're going to say if curloc is greater than or equal to waypoints.length, which means that if it reaches our max length, then it's going to reset its value and go curloc is equal to 0. Okay, so move to locations. This is a very easy script to work with. You're going to say if curloc is equal to 0, since it is an integer. Then we're going to say nm.setDestination waypoints 0 dot position. So basically what we're saying is if we're going to location 1, which is 0 on the navigation mesh agent stuff for some reason, or actually it's the array. So if we're at 0, then we're going to basically at location 1. If we're at 1, we're going to be at location 2. If we're at 2, we're going to be at location 3. I know, confusing, but basically your current loc is going to be your current waypoint's position. So just make sure that you change that value and that value whenever you're setting your locations. And you can keep going on further and further down. Now keep in mind you could actually use an easier function as well called, I believe it's for each, but that's a whole lot more complex than just this very simple straightforward script. And I know it's a whole lot easier for people, especially newer people in programming, to learn. So we're going to just work with this. Okay, so as I said, there's our script. Drag it onto your enemy, and that's all we have to do for our enemy. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. I don't think I applied it to our prefab. Okay, so to create the waypoints, I created an empty game object and set it at a 0.5 on the heights. That way our cubes are set equal to the player's heights. Then we're going to create some cubes, and these cubes we just moved around the map, just cause. And of course we just selected our enemy, dragged our cubes into each element, and then we just press play. And our character should move from point A to point B to point C and then back to point A. Alright, I hope you guys liked this tutorial. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, check out some of my other videos, and if you have any question, please leave it inside the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer those questions, and I'll see you guys next time.